You're 20 years old, a junior in college, and you've spent the last 3 years perfecting a version of yourself that only exists on a LinkedIn profile. You hit apply on that university career portal at midnight because only one listing actually mattered. You practiced for 3 grueling interview rounds until your answers sounded like gospel, and you bought a specific suit just to look like you already belonged in a place that hasn't even noticed you yet. Now you're here, 200 West Street, 43 floors of glass, steel, and pure concentrated money. So week 10 finally hits. This is the moment you've been grinding for. They call you into a sterile conference room for a meeting that lasts exactly 2 minutes. A firm handshake, a piece of paper, and there it is, the return offer. You've made it. You look them in the eye and say thank you with a perfectly composed, straight face. But the second you're out, you're bolting for the bathroom to call your mom. She's on the other end crying tears of joy because her kid is moving up in the world. You don't cry. You're just numb. You're 22 years old when you officially start in September as a level 2 first-year analyst. On paper, you're a winner. Your base salary is a massive $110,000. But have you ever seen how fast 6 figures disappears in Manhattan? After the taxman takes his cut and you drop $4,200 a month on a tiny studio in Tribeca, which, believe it or not, was the absolute cheapest place within walking distance of the office, you realize the math doesn't add up. You make good money, but you can't actually afford to live like you do. And then there's the work. The offer was real, but that job description you read? Total fiction. Your new life is a never-ending cycle of building pitch books. Think of a pitch book like a high-stakes corporate dating profile, a 60-page PowerPoint deck designed to convince a CEO that Goldman Sachs is the only firm worthy of handling their billion-dollar deal. You aren't doing high-level strategy, you're a digital janitor. You spend your life inside templates, obsessively updating fonts, aligning text boxes, and cross-referencing every single digit against the financial model until your eyes bleed. But wait, it gets better. What about the hours? Everyone talks about the grind, but nobody tells you the truth. It's not 60 hours a week. It's not 80. You actually try to track your time for the first month, but you stop because looking at that number is just too depressing. Engagement, can you imagine working until 2 a.m., then 4 a.m., then 6 a.m., only to have an associate message you saying the 8 a.m. client meeting is ruined because the cover page has the wrong logo? You fix the logo. You sprint home to shower, and you head right back to the desk. Analogy, at this point, your body treats sleep like a series of short layovers in a long-distance flight. It's no longer a nighttime ritual. It's just something that happens in 90-minute windows. You catch sleep wherever you can, on the subway, in the back of a cab, or even for 5 minutes in a bathroom stall on the 23rd floor. By the time that $40,000 bonus hits in January, you're barely a person anymore. Engagement. Is that kind of money worth losing your soul? But you aren't getting pushed out. You're 23 now, a level 3 senior analyst. You survived year 1. That means something, not much, but something. Your base salary jumps to $125,000, but it feels meaningless because your lifestyle inflated the second you saw it coming. Now, you've got a first-year analyst named Connor. He's you 18 months ago. Same suit, same frantic energy, triple-checking every cell. Engagement. Isn't it wild how quickly you become the person who used to intimidate you? Now you're the one sending those 2 a.m. pings about a logo. You're in the gap. Too senior to be protected, too junior for real power. The associate pushes work to you, you push it to Connor. He fixes the logo, you check him, the associate checks you, the VP checks the associate, and finally the MD checks the VP summary. Make sure to hit the bell and subscribe so you don't miss how this hierarchy eventually breaks you. The VP checks the associate's work. The MD checks the VP's summary of the work. At this level, you start to see the hidden architecture of the firm. Here is the reality. Goldman Sachs doesn't actually run on raw talent. It runs on a rigid, unbreakable hierarchy. And that hierarchy? It's fueled by a high-octane engine of pure fear. It's the fear of being the one who let a typo slip into a client deck, or the analyst who dared to leave at 9 p.m. on a live deal night. It's the constant, gnawing worry of being managed out before you even hit your 2-year mark. But something has shifted in you. You aren't afraid anymore. And honestly, that's the real problem. You've been in the trenches so long that your fear has calcified into a freezing, clinical competence. You're incredibly good at this job now, but you're becoming a version of yourself that your college self wouldn't even recognize. Promotion review is coming in 4 months, but you already know the verdict. At Goldman, they have a weird way of sharing good news. It's never direct. The MD told an associate, who then made sure to mention it during a hallway chat just loud enough for you to overhear. They only use direct communication for the bad stuff. So, welcome to Level 4, Associate. You've got that MBA from Wharton now, along with 2 years of memories and $220,000 in student loans. Was it worth it? You tell yourself, probably. You're 26, your base salary is $175,000, and with a performance bonus of $75,000, you're officially clearing $250,000 a year. The spreadsheet says the debt is manageable. But you know what the spreadsheet doesn't account for? That Sunday night feeling. Now you're the gatekeeper. You aren't just building the decks anymore. You're the one who owns them. As a vice president at age 30, you've ascended to a level where most analysts and associates simply vanish. You made it. You are the high-pressure filter between the messy, raw work of the juniors and the high-powered people who actually matter. Your life is spent scrutinizing analyst models and scrubbing away mistakes before a VP or senior ever catches a whiff of incompetence. When a massive $4.2 billion acquisition is on the line, you are the one executing. The managing director might shake the hands and bring in the client, but you are the person actually running the deal. Think of it like a clock. The world sees the face and the gold hands moving perfectly, but you are the internal gears, grinding away in the dark to make sure every second is accurate. The hours? They're brutal. The deal is a living thing that never sleeps, and it doesn't care about your circadian rhythm. You find yourself sending frantic messages to analysts at 2 in the morning just to fix a tiny error on a logo. Have you ever caught yourself becoming the very thing you used to hate? You hear that demanding tone in your own voice, you recognize the sound of a person who has lost their soul to the grind, and yet you hit send anyway. Because the client doesn't care about your sleep, and the MD definitely doesn't care. In a good year, you're pulling in $400,000, with a $250,000 base salary that dwarfs anything your parents ever dreamed of. You're literally making more than they earned in their best 10 years combined. You take them to those high-end restaurants where the menus don't even bother listing prices. Yet you watch your father still order the cheapest thing available because those old habits of scarcity never really die. It's a strange world. When that $4.2 billion press release finally drops, your name isn't on it, but every single digit in those paragraphs belongs to you. The MD gets the commemorative tombstone for the desk, while you get what they call experience. It's the consolation prize they pay you with when the $400,000 just isn't enough to cover the cost of your life. You've got a team of 6 under you, 2 associates and 4 analysts. You know their names, and more importantly, you know exactly which ones are going to crack when the walls close in. Like this video and subscribe if you've ever felt like a gear in a machine, because next, we're looking at what happens when you know exactly who will stay until 5 in the morning without you even having to ask. You take those 6 subordinates, those 2 associates and 4 analysts, and you deploy them like pieces on a grand board. This is what the firm calls management, but let's be real, it feels more like a high-stakes game of chess where you're always 3 moves ahead. At this point, you're a VP, but you haven't actually originated a deal of your own yet. That's the invisible wall, the massive hurdle between the vice president and the managing director. To scale it, you have to stop just executing the work and start proving you can sell it. Have you ever realized that selling is just a fancy word for building relationships that take years to mature? The problem is you don't have years. You have a performance review in 6 months and a track that demands you bring in fresh revenue, not just manage what's already there. So you start the theater. You take clients to expensive dinners. You learn to talk about golf even though you've never swung a club in your life. You buy the gear, you take the lessons, and you realize that even this faking a hobby is just another form of management. Then, at 38, you hit level 6, managing director. You finally originate your first deal, a $2.1 billion merger. You made the call. You sat across from a CEO and convinced him that Goldman Sachs wasn't just an option. It was the only choice. Your reward is a total compensation of $1.2 million this year. But here's the secret. The money stopped meaning anything once you passed 600,000. Above that, it's not currency anymore. It's just a leaderboard ranking, like a high score in a video game you can't even explain to yourself anymore. Your name is finally etched on the deal tombstone, while the analysts who actually built the models are nowhere to be found. You remember being one of them, so you send a 2-sentence thank you email. It takes you 4 agonizing minutes to write because your brain has become so transactional you've forgotten how to sound like a human being. Subscribe and hit the bell if you've ever traded your soul for a promotion, because here is the truth. The money buys everything except the one thing you're constantly losing. Your daughter's school play was on a Thursday. You watched the recording on a flight to London. She was the lead in that play, and honestly, she was incredible. You finally got around to telling her that on Sunday, but all she said was, "Thanks, Dad," before her eyes dropped right back to her phone. It's at this point you realize that you've become a specialized component in a massive, unfeeling system. You are the turbine that powers the whole facility, and a turbine only runs on the constant friction of sacrifice. You don't even ask why anymore. You just spin. You've hit level 7, the partner. Out of 45,000 employees at Goldman Sachs, you are one of only 400. You're 44 years old now. Your compensation is entirely at the mercy of the firm's whim. Last year you pulled in 4.8 million, and the year before that it was 3.2 million. The numbers swing wildly, but your lifestyle has been frozen in place, calcified since about year 12. It doesn't matter how much more you make. You've stopped updating. You sit on prestigious committees and rubber stamp deals that you didn't even have to build. You mentor managing directors who remind you of your 38-year-old self. They are hungry and they are certain, but they're like glass sculptures that are beautiful but completely hollow inside. You have everything that 22-year-old kid with the broken badge ever wanted. You've got the corner office, the title, the number, and a car that is so expensive it doesn't even have to be practical. But you also have a divorce. You have a son in college who only ever texts you on your birthday and major holidays. You have a doctor who looks at your chart and whispers the word stress with the same heavy, clinical gravity that a surgeon uses when discussing a terminal diagnosis. You are the absolute peak of the person you set out to become, but are you even sure that person and you are still in the same body? Goldman Sachs doesn't need you to be happy. It just needs you to perform. If you left tomorrow, the firm wouldn't skip a beat. Right now, in some university career portal at midnight, a junior with a perfect GPA, 4 clubs, and 1 solid internship is submitting his application. He'll get the offer. He'll walk through that lobby and his badge won't work on the first morning. Nobody will look up to help him, but he'll fix it himself and he'll be back tomorrow morning. The giant clockwork doesn't stop for anyone. It just swaps out the old, worn-out gears for shiny new parts. Like this video and subscribe to see more about the real cost of making it to the top.